Let them call you racist.
Laissez-vous appeler raciste.
Let them call you xenophobes.
Mais laissez-les vous appeler xénophobes.
Let them call you nativist.
Laissez-vous les appeler nativistes.
Wear it as a badge of honor.
Portez-le comme un badge d'honneur.
All of this shit happening this week, the left's response, no platforming Steve Bannon. Okay, so Trump's chief election strategist, he was invited to speak at the New Yorker Festival. Jim Carrey, amongst other speakers, tweeted that he didn't want to do it anymore, so Bannon was disinvited. Win! When did we get to a point where celebrities decide what we can and can't listen to, okay? I'm not a fucking child. I know a far-right piece of shit when I see one. I am not so suggestible to Bannon's rhetoric that I'm going to go out immediately and join the fucking EDL. On this particular occasion, I wanted to hear what he had to say. Thank you very much, Mr. Jim Carrey. Why wouldn't you want to listen to Steve Bannon over Ace Ventura: Pet Detective? The man is responsible for President Trump. It's fascinating. I want to know everything. What this man has to say should be piped into schools. And I want to hear what he has to say because he's talking to our politicians. Now, politicians who've got their sights on number 10. What exactly is he advising Boris to do? Pretty sure it's not just keep your hair shit and cheat on your wife. Worked for Donald. It's dangerous to listen to what he has to say. Well, maybe, yeah, but it's way more dangerous not to. Okay, he calls himself an economic nationalist, which sounds about as cuddly as he is. Why would anyone not want to try and understand the man at the heart of a populist movement that is spreading, infecting the globe? If you don't listen to Bannon, he doesn't just fucking go away. No single bad idea in history was ever defeated by simply not listening to it. The other one, right? But by defending his right to speak, you're enabling racism. Fuck you. By not allowing him to speak, you are enabling racism. By depriving us of a great opportunity to show everyone, including his supporters, why he's wrong. And if you don't take that opportunity, you're leaving some of the most pernicious, dangerous ideas unchallenged. And it is a tactic that has failed time and time again. This guy got Trump to the White House, putting your fingers in your ears and calling all his supporters deplorables or neo-Nazis. It didn't work, did it? The data's in. It doesn't fucking work. In fact, the strategy helps Trump because you push people to the far right by telling them they're already there. Bring it on. I'll interview the cunt.
Okay, guys, today we're going to be talking about Steve Bannon. But before we do, I should clarify a couple things real quick about that Jonathan Pye rant you just watched. For the most part, I agree with him. I think it's incredibly important that we listen to people like Steve Bannon and then critique and then hold to account the bullshit that he's espousing, right? But I do disagree with Jonathan in that, no, I do not think that we should be piping Steve Bannon into schools. But what we're getting at is this whole argument about platforming and deplatforming, and I think that with the type of influence that Steve Bannon has on global politics, he's someone we do need to be listening to. Whereas people like Milo Yiannopoulos or Ben Shapiro, these are more cultural phenomena people. Yes, they do have an influence over sort of the, zeitgeist psyche, but Steve Bannon creates Milo Yiannopoulos' and Ben Shapiro's, right? And he definitely has a very specific agenda that he's on, and it is without question 100% fascist in nature. So while I think that it would be a wonderful world where Steve Bannon was not allowed to speak in it, I think we do ourselves a horrible disservice by not listening to him and saying, oh, he's just, he's that fascist asshole who's going to lie to me. It's like, yes, he is, but we need to understand the lies that he's telling because there are a shit ton of people who are believing these lies.
His supporters, what does it say about you?
Shit, he's bleeding. Yo, yo, yo. He's bleeding.
The left and the opposition party in the media.
What they want to do is shut up the deplorables.
You continue to make excuses for this man for his vile behavior. Doesn't that make you just as bad, if not worse, than him?
2018 is another election about Donald Trump. Because you know what? They're scared of him. They are scared of what he's done. They're scared of the economy that he's created.
Historic tax cut, African American unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, record lows because of what the president's policies are.
He's delivering jobs, he's securing the border. Probably the greatest foreign policy we've seen in decades.
And for all of you who over the last few years have uttered that tired, lazy, uninformed, uneducated, ignorant response, you know what you can go do?
Fuck Trump.
They know that Trump is on the rise out there in the polls.
If the Democrats win the midterms, they are going to go after Donald Trump for impeachment.
Impeach 45!
This election cycle is about the highest stakes possible for our nation.
This is Armageddon.
Tell me what the Democrats are running on.
Are they going to vote on let's bring ISIS back?
They have no answers, so they resorted to racist and xenophobe.
What we've got to do is fight in Congress, fight in the courts, fight in the streets.
We will punch some people in the face.
A homeless woman confronted as she showed her support for Donald Trump.
This is a cultural war.
And that's why we must do everything in our power to block this appointment.
The left wants to undo our country. They want to take away the freedoms we have.
We have created 2.4 million new jobs.
2018 is a referendum as to whether or not a duly elected president is allowed to do his job.
The president is unstoppable, but he's only one man.
You know, this is tough stuff. We're fighting a war.
No wall, no USA at all. No Trump, no wall, no USA at all. No Trump, no wall, no USA.
Welcome to Four Corners. That was the trailer for Trump at War, the latest film by one-time Hollywood producer turned political Svengali, Steve Bannon, the man who put Donald Trump in the White House. The film is propaganda for Bannon's new movement to galvanise Republicans ahead of critical US midterm elections in November. Steve Bannon is one of the most influential and divisive forces in US and global politics. The former editor of the right-wing Breitbart News, which played a key role in the UK's Brexit movement, joined the Trump team first as campaign director, then as chief strategist in the White House until last year. Now, Bannon is on a crusade through Europe and Asia, working with anti-establishment parties on the right and left to take Trump-style populism to the world. His next target is Australia. He'll be here later this year, confident his message of economic nationalism will resonate with Australian workers. I went to Washington to meet the would-be revolutionary who's been wreaking havoc on traditional politics.
Will grind to a halt.
You just used the term pound, and today is actually the day that you've released the trailer for your new film. Now, it depicts the coming election as a violent battle. Why so extreme?
Well, I think if you look at what's happening in the streets with Antifa and these neo-Nazis, everything, that the country is really almost like the 1960s. To a degree, because of the two sides of what's arguing, you see the country is coming apart. And I think all these issues have to be put on the table. And so it is a time, it's a time that the country's quite divided. And that's why this midterm is so important. That's why the 2016 election is so important. You have to decide it at the ballot box.
You say yourself that you won the 2016 election. You were just talking about the chaos in the campaign, but you won that election with not a lot of money, as you say, and really with fear and anger. Do you think that you can rely on the deplorables to come out again this time?
I'm not so sure it's fear and anger as rationality. I think working class people and middle class people in this country realize that something's wrong, is that, upon their shoulders rests the entire tax burden, and upon their shoulders really rest, this kind of liberal post-war international order, the kind of globalist system that's out there, right? They are quite rational. So now what you're going to see, I think, in this election is there's still a lot of anger out there. And I think that this anger can be harnessed. This anger can be harnessed to have another big victory for Trump.
He's not so sure it's fear and anger as much as it is rationality. Okay? That is a dog whistle to racists, that their irrational, ignorant anger and fear is rational, that they're on to something good and righteous. When they're not. They're just irrational, ignorant, angry, fearful bigots. And then he tells them, because the globalists are controlling everything, and so that makes your irrational anger and fear rational. Well, globalist is just a fucking dog whistle for anti-Semitism, straight up. So, again, it's important to take a look at the lies that Steve Bannon is telling, because it sets the tone of broader narratives on the right. Let's get back into it.
This is not a trade war. And Australia sees this. Australia is at the front lines of this. We're in an economic war with China, okay? Not a trade war. China's been economic war with the West, and they are a, not authoritarian, they're a totalitarian mercantilist system. They always talk about this international rules-based order. The Chinese don't play by any rules. They don't have any internal rules. It's a completely totalitarian regime, not the Chinese people, the regime. Okay, what Donald Trump has said, he's the first president, because the elites in our country, just like the elites in Australia said, the rise of China is inexorable. It's the second law of thermodynamics.
Because we can't continue to allow China to rape our country, and that's what they're doing. It's the greatest theft in the history of the world.
I have to say we've developed a great relationship with China, other than the fact that they've been killing us on trade for the last long period of time. Killing us, absolutely killing the United States on trade.
Do you know what Trump said? I don't think so. Trump has been arguing this for 30 and 40 years. What Donald Trump has done is taken the United States government and said, hey, we're just not going to be a punching bag anymore. And that's why I keep saying Australia is the canary in the mine shaft. Australia can show you when good and decent people kind of play by the rules, and the next thing they look around, and money, the economic resources and economic assets of a country are owned by another country, and all of a sudden you start seeing influence operations on their politicians.
Well, let's
what's happening.
Let's just pull those pieces apart.
Okay, this whole thing about China's the boogeyman, or one of the boogeymen, is a diversionary tactic away from the ills of capitalism, straight up. That's what makes Bannon a fascist, is among a number of other things. But he's an apologist for capitalism. And what fascists have traditionally done in their apologies for capitalism is scapegoat anyone and everyone they can, and indiscriminately scapegoating anyone that serves their purpose, which is to get people to go, oh, no, it's not these multinational corporations and bankers and rich capitalists. It's the globalists, or it's the Chinese, and I think it's, again, it's important to understand that Bannon's not getting his talking points from Trump. Trump got everything that he thinks he knows about China from Steve Bannon. So again, we need to listen to this cat. Let's listen to him some more.
You spent some time over the last months in different places in the world trying to link up right-wing movements. Let's look at how Australia looks through Steve Bannon's eyes. Do you have any interest or connections with Australian politicians?
Well, first off, we got our hands full here because of this populist nationalist revolt. Clearly, this November, we've got another massive election that's going to really determine the future and direction of the Trump administration and this movement. I have announced that the movement's going to be a global operation, helping be in connective tissue for ideas, communication, polling, analytics.
And do you see Australia being brought into that?
I absolutely see Australia is going to be a hotbed of populism, just knowing the cussedness and grit of the Australian people. Remember, one thing is about populism, it's about getting decision-making away from a set of kind of global elites, the Goldman Sachses of the world, the party at Davos, and get it back to working-class people and middle-class people.
And Davos is the international meeting of economists and world leaders held in a very swanky Swiss city every year in the mountains, ski town, just so everyone's clear about your labels. You're used to them, we're not. Now, let's just talk about that economic nationalism. You say that there's potential for that to take root in Australia. How do you stop economic nationalism morphing into something that is essentially racist?
I don't think economic nationalism has anything to do with race. In fact, what I keep saying here, it doesn't matter. Remember, it doesn't matter if you're about your religion. It doesn't matter your ethnicity, your color. It doesn't matter your gender. It doesn't matter your sexual preference. All of that's totally irrelevant.
Okay, so nationalism can't be racist. I mean, we could just look at all of history where nationalism has reared its head and come to the fore, and it has always done so on the backs of minorities and oppressed and marginalized groups from a totally fucking racist perspective. Most assuredly in the United States, racism is completely intertwined with capitalism and nationalism, 140 billion%. But in a sense, he's right. Nationalism in and of itself is not always racist. If we were a nation that truly celebrated the diversity that makes up the people that live here, then I don't know, maybe I would feel a little good about being a nationalist. But we don't. We give one specific group a leg up over everyone else on the backs of all those it got a leg up over. And so Steve Bannon knows this, and so it's a sort of a diversionary tactic from reality. It's a lie. That's in that sense, because he knows that he can say, oh, come on, nationalism isn't racist. And in a sense, he's right. But he also knows damn good and well that American nationalism is steeped in fucking racism. And same with Australia and much of Europe. So, yeah.
Say that, and I've watched lots of interviews, and I've watched people ask you or accuse you in various ways of being a racist, and there's no evidence that that's what you are. But
okay, I just want to stop it real quick, because she said there's no evidence that he's a racist. This is the fucking problem with the media giving people like Steve Bannon a platform. This is why people say no platform for people like Steve Bannon, because nobody in the fucking media is capable of properly confronting these people on their bullshit and their dog whistling and their lies. Listen, he doesn't come out and overtly espouse racist tropes. He's too fucking intelligent and careful to do that. But his entire agenda teeters on the necessity of racism. So great fucking journalism there, journalist.
But do you understand what that group of people, the particularly disenfranchised white workers in America,
but the white workers are not racist.
How that turns into racism?
See, this is another thing. The white workers in this country are not racist. Do we have an element like tried to march here the other day? And how many guys showed up? 6. Well, my point is that it's such an infinitesimal. I come from the American South. Okay? It's such an infinitesimal, small percentage of people, and they're only made important because the left media gives them a microphone. The other day, we had thousands of police officers and hundreds of media, and 6 guys showed up, 20 guys showed up? It was nothing. It's a joke.
What happened a year ago was not a joke.
Well, what happened a year ago, and I've said this from day one, the neo-Confederates, the neo-Nazis, the KKK have no place in American society.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides.
You know what an unambiguous declaration against people wielding swastikas sounds like, and that's not what we heard.
President Trump has been adamant about that. He has condemned the neo-Nazis, condemned the KKK, he has condemned the neo-Confederates. You're hearing what your mainstream media, here's what they want to hear. They're never going to let Trump off the hook on this. They're just not going to do it. They're going to continue to pound that. But I got to tell you, as long as you don't take responsibility, the 2 things the mainstream media have done. Number 1, they've given a bunch of marginal, dangerous people a platform.
Okay, yeah, so they did come out and make a little statement and go, KKK's bad and racism's bad and whatever. And aside from being way too fucking little, way too fucking late, every single member of the KKK and every white nationalist group and, RAM and Identity Europa and these groups, they understood that they were just saying that to get the media off their back, and that definitely people like Donald Trump and Steve Bannon are totally on board with their agenda. And you'll notice also that he diverted the attention onto the left, espousing this new trope that is being popularized by Dinesh D'Souza's new film, Death of a Nation, that the left are the true violent people, as made evident by Hitler was somehow a liberal, which is ridiculous nonsense. And if you don't believe me, please take a look at my film Death of a Nation, making Joseph Goebbels blush. But Steve Bannon is now coming in tandem with, on the heels of Dinesh D'Souza's recent movie, and pushing in his new movie, this narrative that it's going to be violent, the Democrats win, and because the Democrats are the violent, and Antifa, and, all this fear-mongering bullshit, when all the violence, all the fear, all the anger, all the bigotry, all the threat literally comes from those that Steve Bannon tries to put in positions of power and maneuvers to see narratives such as those gain broader prominence, while at the same time shadowing their true nature.
But you know how to harness their anger too, don't you? You've worked out a way to try and separate yourself and your views from them, but at the same time, their comments filled the Breitbart website. You're missing the point.
That anger is about that anger is about the $880 billion to the $4.5 trillion. It's about the wealth. What it's about is a set of elites that took care of themselves and basically screwed over the American worker and the American middle class. The anger comes because people are rational. They look out there and they say, hey, it's my pension fund and my insurance company, my insurance policy, that's the underpinnings of Wall Street.
Do you understand what transforms that into racism when it happens? Because it does. We've seen people express it in racism.
You can beat this dog all day.
What you have seen is people with racist views cleave to your economic nationalist movement.
But it doesn't cleave. This is my point. It's such a de minimis. What the media always says, and you always go back to the same thing. Aren't you worried about this 0.1% that when we put the cameras on them, say, oh yeah, we support that, versus the basics of the argument? Here's the argument. The Republican Party is being turned into a workers' party. The workers in this country are finally standing up for themselves. This movement's not going to stop. And it doesn't matter how many liberal journalists come in here and say, oh, this is a bunch of fascists, this is a bunch of Nazis, this is a bunch of racists. And this is why you've lost so much credibility. This is why the mainstream media in this country has lost so much credibility.
Don't put me in that crowd.
Fascists always point to economic struggles, scapegoat them, and then pander to the victims of those economic struggles. And in this case, in an elaborate, long-constructed system of thinly veiled racist dog whistles and appeals to the basest inclinations of the most uninformed people. And it works. And then, and they can just throw out willy-nilly things that, like, where did he get that 0.0000%? That's fucking ridiculous. Right-wingers are committing violent fascist terror every single day in Western culture. And the media is partly accountable because they don't hold to account these type of actions. You've got this same journalist here telling you, hey, there's no proof that you're racist, when instead maybe what she should have said was, hey, you may not say racist stuff, but you are knowingly pushing racist dog whistles and knowingly saying things that people will interpret as being racist. She got close to it and did a better job, really, frankly, than I see for the most part from most other media outlets, but that is not the going practice amongst the media, and they regularly fall into these liberal traps that are that are set for them. Liberal traps in the sense that fascists like Steve Bannon understand the talking points that your typical liberal is going to throw out and is completely prepared to turn those types of narratives on their head. So you have to do your homework on the history of fascism when you're going to confront people like Steve Bannon, because he's not playing by any type of standard rules when it comes to discourse and the national dialogue at all. He is 100% trying to subvert and pervert the national dialogue in order to really make fascism grow and take hold. And we all know this, but it's like our media is in perpetual knee-jerk response mode to this stuff. They're not doing their homework on it, and they're not taking these fucking people seriously. All right, let's just get into this last little bit, and then I'll come back with some closing comments.
I'm not running with that crowd.
By the way, you're completely arguing the point over and over again. That's what I said in France.
Let them call you racist.
Laissez vous appeler raciste.
Let them call you xenophobes.
Mais laissez-les vous appeler xénophobes.
Let them call you nativist.
Laissez-vous les appeler nativistes.
Wear it as a badge of honor.
Portez-le comme un badge d'honneur.
When they can't beat you on the facts, what they're always going to go back and do is the same parlor trick they've always had. And that parlor trick's very simple. They're going to call you racist.
Okay,
they're going to call you a xenophobe. They're going to call you that. And I said that accusation, wear that accusation as a badge of pride, because the accusation cannot be, they can't debate you on the facts, and they'll never debate you on the facts. They will
Let's
just
be
try to
very
smear
clear
you.
about that. So what you're talking about is what people said in response to what you said at the Le Pen rally in Lille, which is to, if they call you a racist, wear it as a badge of pride. So
hang on.
I know
but
you're
look,
going.
look at the predicate.
Look at the. I did.
Look at the predicate.
You make a speech, but
look at the predicate.
it's my turn to ask a question. You're standing there in a party that is steeped in a history of anti-Semitism.
Look at the predicate. Look at the predicate in that speech.
Yes, I have.
I said when they can't beat you on the facts, because what Donald Trump has done has the lowest unemployment in the history of African Americans in our country, the lowest unemployment in Hispanics in our country. We now have wages rising among
17 years for the Hispanics.
17. By the way, I think the other day it actually went to the lowest ever. But we'll double check that. I'm sure you'll fact check me later. And I said when they can't beat you on the facts, what they're going to do is go back to the old trick of xenophobe, nativist, racist. Wear that accusation as a badge of pride, because then in the argument, you know.
Okay. Telling people to be proud of being called racist makes being racist seem okay. Steve Bannon fucking knows that. And it's really astounding the way they've made this transformation recently from the long history of, well-constructed dog whistles that on their face don't sound racist. But when you take the time to dive into them, you see truly they are. And they've got people to unwittingly personalize a lot of those tropes and then regurgitate them, not knowing the racist nature behind them. That's one reason why you hear so many racist people who truly believe they're not racist. It's because they have been force-fed this very well-constructed narrative of dog whistles that they themselves have internalized and come to believe isn't racist, when it most clearly and obviously is. But they've moved beyond even that. Now it's the racist dog whistle is be proud to be called a racist. And listen, he's doing it in such a way as, I know you're not racist. You're not. You hate immigrants and Muslims, and, you think that it's okay for cops to murder black people every day on the street, and you're not racist. But when they call you racist for thinking that, be proud of it. Please explain to me how this does not perpetuate and bolster fucking racism and normalize it and make people feel comfortable with saying and doing racist things. That's precisely what it does.